there is this kind of hyper masculine idea, but even for men that are more in touch with that kind of feminine element of themselves, I think that for men to truly step into their power, that they need to learn how to be vulnerable. And it was really, I mean, I often refer to martial arts when I talk about, about this sort of stuff, because in martial arts, it teaches you that, that you have this capacity. I did a bit of Muay Thai back in the day, and what I loved about martial arts is that really teaches you that you have the capacity to hurt someone if you need to, but you choose to be benevolent. So this idea of, rather than, it's this choice to be vulnerable. Yes, you can be strong and you can be the man and you can control everything, but you can also choose to be vulnerable and to be open and to allow that, I guess, psychoenergetic space within yourself, because that's true power.
I
You
love
do
that.
have the capacity. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do JKD, Jeet Kune Do, which is Bruce Lee's
Yeah.
philosophy of martial arts. So it's a mix of all the different ones. And
Mm-hmm.
it's exactly what you're saying. It's not about force. Like, I went in, and still do sometimes now, and I try and like blast my way through the pads or through a drill. And actually, it's not about the force. It's about the energy and the flow and the contact with the other person. So when you're doing the physical exercise, it's still about flow and energy and responding to what you're getting, as opposed to just blasting through like a bulldozer. But then I
Yeah.
always found more interesting was the writings of Bruce Lee, where he did a bunch of different books, but the one that I like the most is called The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, where he talks about, half of it is about the physics of fighting, but the other half is nothing to do with fighting. It's
Yeah.
all philosophy. It's all
Yeah.
about, like you said, this state of being in the flow and not actually trying to sort of force anything. And you know, I think martial arts, people look at MMA and UFC and they think it's just like a blood sport. But actually, if you go to the deep core of it, there's a lot of really amazing life lessons. Like, I think everyone should do a martial art just to get into the mindset, as opposed to the actual just physical side.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. It's this whole victim perpetrator narrative that we've set up as a culture, that you're either the bully or the bullied. And I think it's really important for young men too. And actually young women as well, in school and stuff. Like, this idea needs to be taught. Like, we really need to start talking about this as a culture. And it's just fascinating to me, this whole idea about power and force, and trying not to, I guess, not to have to force life. If you think about, footballers will know it when they hit the ball, and like, it's that sweet spot when you kick the ball, and that it's a mixture of force, yes, and doing all the right physiological things, but it's also a flow. And musicians, I mean, in a past life I was a musician, and for me, that music, you can learn to play the piano in a very methodical way, but it's when it's almost like you have to learn how to play a song on the piano and then forget everything you've learned and just play, and I just love that metaphor. And I just think it's just such a beautiful thing to be in that flow state, and really that's where we're trying to get to. And I think, unfortunately, what seems to have happened, even with forms of my profession in psychology, CBT and things like that, we've become overly developed cerebrally and cognitively, and not and kind of erred away from that energetic flow kind of state.
And I guess you
It's
want
like,
both, right? Like, you want a bit of a balance of the two. It's not that we're saying that one is better than the other, or that you have to be sort of tapped into one side of the brain more than another side. It's that
yeah,
yin and yang, masculine, feminine energy, whatever you want to call it,